So you guys have probably been wondering, Andrew, where the hell you been, gamer? Let me tell you, I have been in the gutter, okay? I released that update like 8 months ago, and it just went downhill fast. I used to be up there with the big dogs, man. I used to be up there with Hakita, with Moose, you know, with the big boys, the big first-person shooter indie guys, right? No, I got the express pass back to the fucking kiddie league, okay? I'm now sitting next to the kid who takes a whole package of Big League Chew and swallows it whole like mashed potatoes, okay? It ain't good, gamers. But there was hope on the horizon. Or there was light on the horizon. Whatever the saying is, there's a horizon and there's good shit on. The point I'm trying to make is that it was going to get fixed, right? I was working on this new update. It was pretty much going to redo the whole previous update and make everybody happy, or so I thought. And the journey there is what we're going to be talking about today. The path from defying my game to undefying my game and everything in between there. That's what this video is about. So sit back and enjoy the show. So this whole thing kind of started like a year ago, back in June, on June 13th, with the Future Game Show. We had that trailer up, and I had a new demo up, and a lot of people were playing it and kind of enjoying it. It was a bit of a mixed bag, but this is kind of where it started. But before we go all the way back there, I do want to take a second and just show you 30 minutes before this update released. I want to show you a clip I pulled off of my Twitch, okay?
I appreciate you being here with me to calm my nerves. Glad you all think the update looks good. You're about to play it in a matter of minutes, so so anyway.
Hello? Welcome to therapy. When I first released that update, I was exhausted. I was so tired. Because like the previous 4 days I had spent working pretty much non-stop. I did not like take any breaks. I was just drinking tons of coffee and just working constantly. I think it's funny because I remember on maybe not the last day, but the day before the last day, I had made a brand new level. And levels usually take a while to make, but I had literally made a brand new level just on the last day. And so you can imagine that one didn't get much testing. And what's funny about that is that level ended up becoming probably the best arena I've ever made in level 0 in the current version of the game, is what that happened to that arena. But yeah, no, at the time it still wasn't a very good level. I don't remember anyone really playing it and being like, yeah, I like this. There was a few areas of it I liked. There was an underground cave area for that level that eventually became that cave that passes through into the arena on level 0, which is pretty nice looking. But overall, like, it was really rushed at the time, and the whole update was rushed, and in hindsight, obviously I should have taken more time, but I was just exhausted by the end of it. And I knew that if I delayed it even more, not only would my publishers give me this look, by the way, that's a joke. They probably, okay, you know what? That's not really that much of a joke. They probably would have given me that look. But, you know, rightfully so. I'd always been late on updates, and I really didn't want to push that update back anymore, because by that time, it had been almost a year, not even almost a year, I think it had been a year since the game had received a mainline update. It's like, that whole update, I needed to get it out then. And I don't really regret it. For the most part, there weren't very many game-breaking bugs. There weren't very many like horrible things. There was like the glitch where you could spam health upgrades and become an unkillable god. There's that one. But yeah, that's harmless. You know, whatever. I think what's probably the most interesting thing to talk about, though, with regards to that update, was why it happened the way that it did. And that's a whole huge question. I know a lot of people are probably wondering, like, why did I decide to go in the direction that I decided to go in? And I've kind of tried my best to poke at an answer for that question a few times, but it's not a super duper easy question to answer. You know, why does anyone do anything? You know, why do school teachers do the, I don't know, can you go to the bathroom? Why does my dog dine at Cat Shit Cafe every single day? Riley, why do you do it? Why do you do that? Hey, Missy. Hi! I think the actual... Okay, you gotta get out of the shot. I'm sorry. Please, I need this. I'm recording a video. Lay down. Okay, you can just slap me, I guess. That's fine. Lay down. Stop fucking slapping me! Stop fucking slapping me! You little bitch! Stop it! Yeah, that's right. Shoo! Anyway, yeah, no, why does anyone do anything? I think, for me, if we really want to get into this, let's go back to the very, very beginning of the game. Like 6 years ago, almost 7, when I first started developing the game. I noticed a trend in the indie community where no one was doing advanced movement mechanics and everyone was trying to make like a AAA game. Like the indie spirit had almost died, right? And what was so weird about that is a lot of players who were big into indie games were supporting that. And I remember Super Hot, when Super Hot came out, which initially was the biggest inspiration for my game. When Super Hot came out, it had like 30 something levels, right? And I've talked to Moose before about this, where it's like, fucking imagine making 30 levels now. And with Super Hot it's different because the levels were really short and you didn't play them for very long. But at the same time, still 30 levels is a lot, and people were mad about that. I remember seeing negative reviews on the Steam page saying this game only has 30 something levels. Like that's nuts to me. Indie games have never been about being super duper long experiences. Well, they've been about being special and unique. They've been about giving you something that AAA developers don't give you. That's what they've always been about. And there was this trend around 2015, 2016, where that just wasn't the case anymore. Indie games were kind of falling away from that. I always wanted to make a roguelike game. And to me, I think the perfect roguelike game for non-roguey type people is Risk of Rain 2. I think they have that replayability really, really down. They have something there that just like you can keep coming back to it. There's not a whole lot of content. I think by the time I started playing Risk of Rain 2, there was like 8 levels, and that was it. And it wasn't even like Risk of Rain 1 where they were randomly generated. They were the same level with different things in them, like different loot. And I really liked that. I said, okay, well, there's some consistency there that's required for people who want to speedrun the game. But there's still that aspect of like you never know what you're gonna get when you go into it. And I really wanted to go in that direction. And I was like, okay, well, I want it to be more of an arcade shooter as well, but I wanted to have that difficulty, that aspect where you want to replay it. So I pumped up the difficulty a lot. And it was also different for me because I played the game a shitload. I just played it every single day for hours every day when I was working, and I got really, really good at like abusing the bugs in the game, abusing the mechanics in the game. And so even without upgrades, nothing could ever kill me. And so I kept on making it harder and harder and harder. I made the enemies tankier, the weapons do less damage, I made them more accurate, them do more damage. I did a whole bunch of things, and eventually I even had like the buffed enemies, which in of itself is a great idea. I think it's a great mechanic. But the way I used it, which like was like every single enemy is a buffed enemy when the teleporter event is going, is a horrible idea because it just made the game a grind. And furthermore, I wanted to be like Risk of Rain 2, but I didn't do the thing I normally do when I try to like take inspiration from other games, which is to look at their mechanics, look at what they're doing well, apply them to your game, and then push the boat a little bit further. Use them in a different way. Use your mechanics and what makes your game special, mixed with the inspiration from other games to make something unique. And I didn't do that. And that's really where the problem started, is I had a baseline idea for what I wanted, but I didn't take enough time to really iron it out. And so when you look at this new update, there's a lot of similarities between this update and the last update. There really are. I didn't really compromise what I wanted. In the end, the game is still a roguelike type game. It still is pretty difficult at times. Once you get up there in the threat levels, it does get difficult. There's still the event, the door event is still there. The buffed enemies are still there. The Shrine of the Summit is still there. Endless spawning is still there. All of it's still there. But I've just used those things that I took inspiration from in other games, and I twisted them and I pushed the boat a little bit further. Right? I did what I should have done in the first place. And that's why this update, being the same exact vision as the last update, has come out just significantly better. It's just a better game. I just went on a fucking tangent. Jesus Christ. So, October 28th, the update releases, and the community, there's no other way to put it. They lose it. They weren't happy with it. They didn't like the direction the game was going. They didn't like my attitude towards it, how I felt about it, because, I was also defending it, and that was a mistake. But, people just weren't super duper happy with it, and honestly, I knew even before the update came out that I was gonna have some work to do to fix it. I didn't know the extent at which I'd have to fix it, but I knew there was gonna be something. So immediately I got to work, and I started with pretty much what the loudest people were screaming. It was too slow, too hard, too tanky, too grindy, not enough content. That's kind of where I wanted to start. I started with speed, and the thing that a lot of people do not understand about games is that if you have a game that is nearing the end of development, like the gameplay loop is there, the gameplay systems are there, you can kind of see what the finished product is going to be like. If you change anything integral to how the game plays, even a small thing, and even a small change, that has a lot of repercussions, okay? That has a ripple effect that goes through and just demolishes a bunch of the stuff you've already laid in place. So the first thing I started with, of course, was speed. I didn't do this immediately, but I did eventually remove sprint. But regardless, the thing I did first was I sped up the character, so your normal walk speed was faster than your sprint speed from the previous update. That was a huge change, and because of that change, wall running had to be faster. Wall running had to change a bunch to just keep up with how fast your normal player movement was. And so from that change, the levels had to change. And so I pretty much went about redoing every single one of the levels I had, and because of the new speed, levels had to be longer, they had to be wider, they had to expand by a significant margin. And the first level I started on was that level 0 level, the one I was talking about earlier. And that is made up of level 2 and level 7, I think, from the previous update, and then those levels are stitched together to make kind of a whole level. An interesting part is that the very first encounter on level 0, that's actually the hub from the previous update. Like, you probably can't tell because of how much has changed, but that's literally the hub geometry on that level, which I always thought was kind of fun. So the speed changed, the wall running changed, and all that stuff started to kind of come together. The next thing, which is honestly probably the biggest change I had to make, was the changes to balance, how weapons react and how weapons work and function and feel. And the biggest thing I did with that is I completely wrote a new projectile system. So in the previous update, the way the projectiles worked was that the faster you move, the bigger their hit registration is. There weren't really any hit scan bullets in the previous update. So pretty much what I did was I remade my weapon system so that it could take only a certain amount of projectiles, and those projectiles can be like hit scan or flat bullets, which is like the normal projectiles. They can be explosive bullets or grenades or ricochet rounds or physics bullets. They can be a whole bunch of things. But I started with that hit scan bullet because I wanted to say, if I'm going to use hit scan bullets, I want to make sure they're really, really good. And what ended up resulting from that was really, really, really accurate, probably too accurate, bullet magnetism in a way. You can shoot pretty much anywhere around an enemy and you'll hit. Even if they're like way off your crosshair, you'll still probably hit. And in the end, I found that worked better because of how fast you're moving. Having something that's consistently able to help you get that extra few, pixels on your screen to land that hit, it does miracles for how fast the game plays. The next thing I had to do is, I had a whole stream on this. The next thing I did was worked on like how enemies spawn in. So I got rid of like the timer between threat levels. That was gone. And at first I was like, I need to keep endless spawning. But in the end, I determined that it's better to make that an option. So what changed after that was the Shrine of the Summit. Its whole thing changed. Buffed enemies only spawn when you're doing an endless spawn challenge, and endless spawn challenges only happen when you're either doing the Shrine of the Summit or you're doing the door event. And we'll get into the door event here in a second. That's a big one too. So that changed like pretty much instantly, where it's like, if the levels don't have endless spawning by default, the challenge of the Shrine of the Summit would be introducing that kind of thing, and from there buffed enemies would also play a role. But not every single time. I didn't want to overdo it. Too much of a good thing. So buffed enemies became more of like a chance thing. They became a little bit of an RNG thing. And I think they work really good that way. So after that, the door event needed to change. And this was probably the main one for me that I was like, oh, I'm definitely wanting to take inspiration from Risk of Rain 2. I'll try to do something like their teleporter event. Like when the bosses drop in, you have to defend it. And in Risk of Rain 2, if you haven't played that game, you start the teleporter event and you sit within a zone for a certain amount of time while that percentage ticks down, and that's how you progress to the next level. And that just does not work for my game. But not only are bosses not spawning, but at the same time, this game is about being aggressive. It's not about necessarily using your abilities in smart ways. It's about being aggressive and using like your movement, using that kind of stuff to get the edge up on your enemies. And that's a big part of it anyway. So I changed it from, oh, you just sit there and charge it, to getting kills charges the door platform. And that's how you progress to the next level. I found that the longer I worked on this kind of thing, it's like, okay, well, I like this, but what's the better version of this that works for what people want to play in my game? The longer I kept doing those, the more the shape of what I wanted started to come together. And I think about this because the mentality I had at the beginning of this update was more like, oh, fuck. Nobody liked the last update. Now I have to change my vision to fit other people's opinions of what they want. But what I ended up learning was what they wanted was actually really what I wanted. They just knew how to articulate it a bit better than I did. And so when I started listening to this kind of feedback, I learned it was like, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I wanted it to be. It just didn't turn out that way. It was a close It was a close imitation. It was a close imitation of it, but it wasn't quite there. And in the end, I feel like, oh my god, they are just chatting up a storm over there. In the end, I think it worked out for the best. Alright, I am tired. I have been recording this for 2 days, and I just want to finish this up and put all this behind me, but I hope you kind of see, you know, the reason why the update happened the way it did, and my thought process behind it, and what I had to go through to fix it all, and like the kind of journey I went through to adjust all that. It was exhausting, but I think in the end it was really worth it. I'm glad I did it, and while it does suck that my game review scores dropped a bit, and I don't see it going back up anytime soon, I'm just glad that the game is back on track. I'm back to where I need to be. I'm back heading in the right direction, and all of this is behind me. So hey, thanks for watching. I'm gonna do the YouTuber thing of being like, hey, subscribe to my channel, leave a like, do all that kind of shit. But either way, just thanks for watching, man. I know this was a super duper long one, and it kind of wasn't tethered together super well. I kind of just went on multiple tangents and strung them together into a video, but I appreciate you watching if you stuck to the end, and hopefully in the future I could do more of these kind of videos. I'm not really sure. Maybe they'll be better. I don't know. I don't know what my capabilities are as far as making good content. Probably not very high. But either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.